So even in good economic times, the arts have faced challenges. In this time, in this economic climate, the challenges can seem almost insurmountable. But if there's one thing that I've consistently seen in the arts, it's a sense of determination and dedication. But even that can only get you so far. Much of this is obviously nothing new to all of you, and it sort of follows suit with a lot of themes we heard this evening. There's no need to preach to the choir, but what can we do to change this perception and demonstrate the value while also preparing for the societal changes ahead? One way is to turn the tables, use fact-based information to make the case about how vitally important the arts are. That's what we've seen the Cultural Data Project do. It moves us away from the anecdotal and into the factual. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Cultural Data Project, or CDP, and show you how fact-based information can truly have an impact. Hopefully you'll all see how it can benefit the cultural sector here in Michigan. And I'm going to click through a few slides pretty quick, partly because I can get excited about this, but also I'm from the East Coast, and when I get going, I can start talking a little bit fast. So I want to give a quick overview of what the Cultural Data Project is, and how it works, and how it has had an impact on policy, research, and advocacy, and how it can benefit the state of Michigan. So ultimately, the Cultural Data Project is an online tool to strengthen the cultural sector by helping the organizations in a state improve their management and services, giving researchers, advocates, policymakers information to better tell the story about the sector, and helping funders more effectively make their decisions and plan for their grant-making activities. So those are our sort of three core constituents. What does it do? What is it? It's an online tool that annually collects a lot of data, basically, through it's an 11-section online form. But what it also does is it streamlines that sometimes onerous grant application process, when all of you have to provide applications and shuffle numbers around in different funders' forms and formats. One of the things the CDP does is address that issue. It gives tools for cultural organizations to track their trends and benchmark their performance, information for research and advocacy, funders making informed decisions, and ultimately it's all about service. It's not just something that lives online. The CDP is backed up by support, training, and service, and how to use this and benefit the most from this tool. And why now? I mean, isn't the last thing we need to be doing something new? Shouldn't we sort of buckle down and just kind of get through this mess and rise out at the end? But actually, it's more important in this climate to make the case for arts and culture. I think that's been pretty clear this evening. To give organizations tools to do more with less, and ultimately to get everybody speaking the same language through fact-based information. How did it come about? It started in Pennsylvania just as a project for Pennsylvania back in 2001, when some Pennsylvania funders and advocates came together and said, you know what, there's a demand in the cultural community. Our applicants, our communities, cultural communities telling us, we've had it with your grant applications. You're asking for a lot of information, you're asking for a lot of data and information, and it just goes over the wall, and we never know what's done with it, and we never know where it goes, and you're all asking for it in such different ways that we never see it come out in research. The funders said, how can we address this issue? They spent a lot of planning. If you can imagine a table of funders trying to agree on what to ask for and collect around data, it's quite a feat. And they're all still friendly, and they're all still speaking with each other. But after 4 years and a big investment, they launched the Cultural Data Project in Pennsylvania. It has grown and expanded to many more states, 7 states fully operational. And of course, Michigan is targeted for May 2010. And we're all sort of gearing up and are looking forward to that. And we're a team at Pew of 22 people. We grow to provide the services and the support for this project. It is an emerging national model. We're really glad to see a lot of states expressing interest to say, this is important. We need to have a national snapshot of arts and culture. It's important in our cities, it's important in our states, but also nationally. There's never been a wealth of information like this. I also wanted to point out we did make sure we shaded in the Upper Peninsula, because I know that's important. Thanks. Yes, and we were recently, about a year ago, traveling, our staff were traveling with ArtServe around the state. We managed to get all throughout the state, and our staff came back with just glowing stories and great photos of the scenery throughout Michigan. So we're looking forward to being back out here and on the road again. But it's already becoming a big, widely used tool. 5,900 cultural organizations are putting data in right now, and this number grows every week. 150 grants programs use it as part of the grant application process to benefit benefit their constituent. And partners that support it range from family and community foundations up to major national funders and national service organizations. So data, is it really helpful? Well, yeah, when you use it right and when it's collected right. The CDP collects a wide range of financial, programmatic, and operational information, but more importantly, it collects it in an organized manner so that it can be used and can be a powerful tool. You know, as I mentioned, it's an online form at its core, and there are just 11 sections of information that organizations put data into. So there's nothing really sexy or glamorous here, but what the system can do, I think, is where the power is. There's also a lot of tools built in to help organizations understand what data to put where, very clear instructions and definitions, and even the ability for organizations to put their own notes in behind their numbers, to talk about where they got those numbers from. So in essence, you could be building an online history of an organization's finances, programmatic activities, and operational data. So for a lot of organizations, this is a great centralized repository for themselves as well. And then the first real benefit comes when organizations apply for funding. No longer do organizations have to shuffle the numbers around that they use for one funder and give it to the next funder and figure out what they're asking for and why can't I figure out what to put in that line item. And instead, the CDP, once data is submitted, lets the organization do that with the click of a mouse. So if they apply for one funder one day, it pops up all the information in the format that that particular funder wants. And another day, a week, or a month later, they apply to another. The system takes care of that. Again, they just have to click their mouse and let the technology take care of that big part of the grant application process. So there's an immediate savings and streamlining right off the bat to the cultural organizations. And we're looking forward to engaging the broadest range of funders here in Michigan that would use the Cultural Data Project in this way and benefiting the cultural sector. The other side of it is giving data back. You know, it's great to collect a lot of information, but giving it back to the organizations that actually put it in is vital. So there's a series of reporting tools that organizations can use to get instant annual reports. How are they doing? Trends in specific areas. How are their marketing activities paying off? What does their balance sheet look like from year to year? Real important measures that maybe some organizations weren't able to get in the past now are available with just a few clicks of the mouse. And a way to share these reports with their boards, with their staff, with consultants and donors. There's 77 different reports, and don't worry, I won't go into all of them, just a quick overview. The first thing, 3 clicks of the mouse and an organization can generate an annual report on their organization, summarizing all their key financials, breaking things out graphically, no longer struggling with how to make pie charts in Excel and how to make them the right size and the same size. It's all taken care of through the technology. The reports also summarize attendance and programmatic activities, and has some built-in learning. It's one thing to just put a bunch of reports out there, but it's another to build it into a learning tool, and that's what these reports also do. Users can turn these reports into living documents by adding their own notes and even saving them for others to share right within their accounts. Trend reports allow a whole range of different trends, multi-year trends to be looked at by an organization. Again, just a few clicks of the mouse to really understand how an organization is doing in a particular situation. And even the ability to really drill down on what makes up those numbers. So there's a lot of power when an organization has consistent, reliable information on their own organization from year to year. So that's very powerful. It's a great tool for strategic planning. It's a great tool for boards to work with an organization. When consultants are engaged, they've said, we don't have to try and gather all this information. We can work with the organization and say, what does all this information mean? And on the other side, benchmarking. It's important to see how is an organization doing with respect to its peers, maybe in their city or state, or maybe in other cities or states, or maybe in organizations that are nothing like them. You know, the challenge with benchmarking and sharing of data that's kind of interesting was when the focus groups with the cultural community were first held, all the cultural organizations said they wanted to see everybody else's data, but they weren't sharing their data. So how do you do that? So we had to come up with a real intuitive, simple way that allows people to use criteria and to display results in aggregate to respect those privacy concerns. So using simple criteria, using things like interactive maps, the users don't have to know that there's anything complicated when they're benchmarking, and they instead can jump in and really understand how they're looking from year to year compared to their peers. So there's a lot of power when an organization can get that information at their fingertips, and we've heard a lot of great success stories where organizations have always thought they were understaffed or that they weren't bringing in as much as their peers, and they're able to show that, or they're able to justify the need for increased support through benchmarking reports.